Okay, so hello and welcome everyone who are attending this class in today's introduction class or the orientation class of F5 performance management syllabus. Okay, now performance management syllabus is usually considered to be a bit challenging exam. If you compare this among all series of skills module like F4 law, like F6 taxation, like FM financial management, like AA audit assurance, like FR financial reporting. So people usually consider this paper as a bit challenging compared to the other exams, usually because it requires a great depth of conceptual knowledge in order to enable a pass in this exam. Okay, so that's why there should be a proper study approach, and unless and until you have a proper tuition approach as well as a proper study approach, it is practically impossible to clear the exam with sound marks. Okay, so hopefully during our session we will ensure we highlight all the core things that is required in this exam, so that you are able to pass this exam with good marks. Okay, now firstly we will quickly deal the formality stuff which every one of you expects when you start a new paper, and then after the formality stuff is done, and then we will move towards the further areas. Okay, now performance management, basically people call this paper as the advanced version of cost accounting. Okay, and basically it brings the knowledge from F2 management accounting. Okay, obviously the management accounting knowledge is given in previous papers of ACCA qualification, or if you are through an exemption route, it's given through that particular portion. Basically, this paper is considered the advanced version of cost accounting, that when we use the cost accounting exam in previous papers of ACCA or in previous papers of our earlier studies, maybe if someone has taken an exemption route or stuff like that, all these details advanced form is in this paper, and this paper is tested through 3 sections: section A, section B, section C. The paper is tested through 3 sections. The examination is tested 3 sections: section A, section B, section C. Now section A has a worth of 30 marks, and it covers 15 MCQs, and MCQ each has a worth of 2 marks. Okay, section A's worth is 30 marks. It contains 15 MCQs of 2 marks each, short MCQs, and 2 marks each, so 30. Section B comprises of 3 OTQs, also called MTQ. OTQ, objective type question; MTQ, multitask question, 3 of 10 marks each. So if 3 OTQs or MTQs of 10 marks each, this also make 30 marks. Now, what is the difference between an MCQ and an MTQ? MCQ is multiple choice question, MTQ is multitask question. Now in MCQ, there is just a scenario of 2-3 lines. Okay, and after that scenario of 2-3 lines, you're asked a question. MTQ is maybe half-page scenario. MTQ or OTQ is a half-page scenario, and from that half-page scenario, there are 5 requirements of 2 marks each. So that is the difference between MCQ and MTQ. MTQ is a big case, half-page maybe, and then small requirements, 2 marks, 5 requirements, so 10 marks each. Whereas MCQ is not a case study, it's just a 2-3 line scenario, and then you're asked the answer. Okay, Whereas section C's work is 40 marks and it has 2 long questions, and each long question's worth is 20 marks each. So 2 long questions of 20 marks, it is 40. Now these long questions have to be answered on either Word or spreadsheet. We will teach you how to answer questions on Word and spreadsheet. Okay, so this is the paper pattern. If you want to copy, you can copy this paper pattern. Okay, after telling you this paper structure, that paper is of 100 marks, section A, 15 MCQs of 2 marks, section B, 3 OTQs or MTQs of 10 marks, and section C, 2 long questions of 20 marks. Now comes what is there in this paper, what is the course outline, okay? So this is the course outline. And there are 5 sections: section A, section B, section C, section D, and section E. I'm giving you 5 minutes to copy this course outline so that I can start in detail what exactly is in this syllabus. Okay, 5 minutes, please copy this. Okay. Now, as far as the course outline is concerned, our syllabus is divided into 5 sections. Okay. Section A has 5 topics: activity-based costing, target costing, life cycle costing, throughput accounting, environmental accounting. Okay. These topics are basically covered in the management accounting phase. Okay. Management accounting phase means the F2 phase, the previous phase. Okay. And once this previous phase is done, then it moves towards the advanced stage, that's section A. But obviously, I don't expect while teaching that students remember everything from their F2 management accounting studies. Therefore, all these topics, activity, target, life cycle, throughput, environmental, all these will be discussed right from the scratch. Okay. Then section B is linear programming, CVP analysis, decision making, pricing, and risk and uncertainty. There are some different topics like linear programming, like CVP analysis, like you will learn how to take decisions, pricing decisions, like for example, Apple company launches an iPhone. How do they set their price? That what is the price? Okay. Risk and uncertainty decisions, that how to incorporate risk, how to incorporate uncertainty. So you will learn some decision making here. It's a very long section. Okay. Section C has budgeting, preparation of budgets, some theoretical areas of budgets like who makes budgets, the budget committee, etc. And quantitative analysis and budgeting, it has some topics like correlation regression. People who remember a bit management accounting, they might have studied their time series analysis, the stats topic. Okay, so these are all the quantitative analysis and budgeting. Okay, section D is considered to be one of the most favorite areas of students: basic variances, advanced variances, and commentary. Basic variances, some variances which you have studied in your earlier papers. Advanced variances, some new variances, and commentary. Remember, if you are going to get a 20-mark question, it won't be just that calculate variances. You will need to calculate variances. And once you calculate variances for 10, 12 marks, for 7, 8 marks, you will be asked to do commentary on whether you think that these variances indicate good performance of manager or bad performance of manager. So we will teach you how to write the commentary. Okay. And section E is all about performance measurement. It has 3 areas: performance measurement of company, performance measurement of division, and performance measurement of NFPO, not-for-profit organization. Whole of this section is based around performance measurement, but that's split into performance measurement of company first, then performance measurement of a unit or division, then performance measurement of a not-for-profit organization. After you end the syllabus, there are some small IT issues like data analytics, big data, some new additions in the syllabus as well. Okay. Now, what do you know about the paper pattern? That how will this paper be tested? Now, there are very limited information pieces available, but whatever information is available, I'm going to tell you. Okay. Firstly, always remember this whole section A. Regarding this whole section A 5 topics, examiner has clearly stated there will be no long question of section C, 20 marks from this area. Okay, this area, whole section A, will either be tested in MCQ or tested in MTQ. There is no need absolutely to do any other long question practice. When you will do the revision kit or see the past papers, you might find one long question of 20 marks, but don't worry, that is what happened in the past. As per the latest updates of the syllabus, section A, all 5 topics cannot come in a long question of 20 marks. Either they will be tested in MCQ or they will be tested in MTQ, multitask question. Okay. And this section, one long question of 20 marks will be from here. One long question of 20 marks will be from here. That's what I know the examiner has told about this. Okay. that there are section A. Section A obviously will be tested in MCQ or MTQ. There won't be any long question of 20 marks from section A, 5 topics. And as far as the section E, PM, performance measurement is concerned, one long question of 20 marks is confirmed from here. Other than these two things, I don't know. No one knows anything about the exam. That means you cannot ask, section B will be tested where? Silent, can be in MCQ, can be in MTQ, can be in long question. What about section C? What about section D? Nothing has been told. They can come in long as well, 20 marks. They can come in MTQ as well or MCQ as well. Just the information is there about section A, 5 topics, and section E, 3 topics. Other than that, we don't know anything about it. So you can be sure that whatever information is there, we have told you that information. Okay. Now our order of studies would be that obviously there is no need to follow the proper order of book or stuff. We will follow as per our own strategy because I'm the captain of the ship, so I know how to take the ship. Okay, so firstly, we will do the most favorite section of students, that is variances section D. Then we will go to section A. Okay, and then we will decide as per the mood and pace of the course what to do next, third, fourth, fifth, what order to follow. But first section will be variances and the next section will be section A. After completion of these two sections, then we will decide what should be our next strategy. Okay, so this was the basic orientation about the course which I have told you. Now, as per the syllabus, we have to move to section D, variances. That's what we're going to do first. So we're starting our studies with variances. If you have any questions regarding the course outline or the syllabus, you can drop a text in the chat. Okay, and after that, I will start in few minutes the section D first, that is variances. Okay. Okay, now, as I discussed with you in the course outline that we will be starting from section D first. That would be our section 1, that is variances. Okay, so I will just start discussing this and we will see what is the teaching methodology in this topic, and that strategy will be followed everywhere. Now, obviously, when we talk about variance, we have discussed in our many studies, not just ACCA studies, that variance is just the difference between budgeted and actual results. Variance is just the difference between budgeted and actual results. Whatever we budget and whatever are the actual results, that difference is called variance. Whatever we budget and whatever are the actual results, that's called variance. Like, for example, we budgeted that we will make 1,000 units and we made 1,200 units. That's called variance. Okay, we plan to sell $500 worth of goods, we sold $600 worth of goods. This 100 difference is variance. Okay, now obviously there are many variances which people study in their earlier papers. Okay, but in your F5 PM syllabus there are 6 variances that need to be followed. In your F5 syllabus, there are 6 variances that need to be followed. The first variance is called material mix and material yield variance. These are two variances actually, material mix and material yield variance. Okay. The second variance is called sales mix and sales quantity variance. Sales mix and sales quantity variance. Okay. Two more. And finally, the third variance is called planning and operational variance. Okay, so there are 6 variances in total. Material mix and material yield variance is 2. Sales mix and sales quantity variance 2. And planning and operational variance 2. So in total, there are 6 variances in PM syllabus which we have to study. And again, as I told you in the course outline, not just computation needs to be discussed. Together with computation, we need to do discussion as well, commentary as well. However, after 1 or 2 classes, we'll move towards the commentary. The first target is how to deal with these variances and what are these variances. Okay. So as far as today's target is concerned, I have told you section D is variances. That is the topic number 1 we are starting. And there are 6 variances which we will cover: material mix yield, sales mix quantity, planning operational. The first target for us is variance number 1, which we will be discussing today: material mix and material yield variance. The first target for today is material mix and material yield variance. Okay, so what we're going to do is that once we have to calculate material mix and yield variances, we must know what they are. Our target for today is material mix and material yield variance. So I will give you a format. Okay, you need to copy that quickly, and then I can start material mix and material yield variance with you. Okay, if you want to copy these notes, you can copy it. Okay, since in our today's agenda, we are covering these 2 variances, material mix and material variance. So copy the format so that I can properly start with material mix and material yield variance, please. Okay, there are some instances where one student messages that he's not able to hear my voice, or one student messages that the screen has gone black or completely blank. So remember, if the fault is from my end, okay, so everybody would suffer. Okay, so if a particular student is not seeing the screen or not hearing me, so that is most likely that the fault is at their end. So you're requested to check there. Is not able to hear my voice, or one student. Noman, it's yield variance, YV. This is YV, yield variance. Okay, now I want you to pay attention to the lecture, because till now we are just discussing the course outline, the paper pattern. We have not studied anything yet. So now we are formally starting our syllabus. Okay, please pay attention. Now we are starting section D, and section D is variances. So you all have heard in your previous papers that variance is basically the difference between budgeted and actual results. And we have to study 6 variances. The first one we are discussing are 2, material mix and material yield variance. Now, firstly, before calculating them, what are they? Now, in your previous studies, you might have heard about a variance called material usage variance. In your previous studies, you might have heard about a variance called material usage variance. In the advanced studies, this variance, material usage variance, is broken into 2 parts. In advanced studies, this material usage variance is broken into 2 parts. One part is called material mix variance, and one part is called material yield. In advanced papers, okay, this variance of MUV, which is taught in previous studies, is broken into 2 parts. One is called material mix and material yield variance. That means material mix and material yield are not coming from out of the box, some new variances. They are just the breakup of 2 previous variances. One is called mix and one is called yield. So this is the first thing you must all know about mix and yield variance, that they are not coming somewhere from outside. The old variance, material usage variance, is broken into two categories, mix and yield. Okay, now I'm going to tell you what is mix and basically what is yield. Please pay attention to get the concept, because this paper is passed by concepts. Now, material mix variance. Remember, these variances, mix and yield, will only occur when product has more than one materials. Okay, this variance will only occur when there are more than one materials. Okay, so I want you to write these two things. First, material yield variance is material usage variance is broken into two parts, mix and yield. And second, these variances only occur when there are more than one materials. Like the product you are making, if they have more than one material, then only there is a mix. You cannot say mix is a single thing. No, when you are making a product having more than one material, then the term arises of mix. Okay, like you are making a cake, it has flour, eggs, butter, sugar. You are making a burger, it has beef, it has vegetables, it has sauces. So when the product has more than one material, then only this variance occurs. You are making a house, it has cement, it has steel. When more than one material is there, then only mixed variance occurs. Okay, so first thing, material mix and yield variance are the breakup of MUV, material usage variance, and they only occur when there are more than one materials. Okay. Now, how do we generate them? Please pay attention, okay? Firstly, I'm talking about the material mix variance, okay? Now, material mix variance is a variance which arises when, let's suppose you are making a product. Let's suppose you are making a product which uses more than one material. Let's suppose you are making a product which uses more than one material. Understand the concept of mixed variance. For example, you are making a product which has more than one materials. Okay. Now let us say you are making a product which has more than one materials. Whenever a product has more than one materials, you do not say like this: input each material in whatever quantity you like. No. Every product which has more than one material has a standard recipe or a standard mixing ratio. Like for example, you are making a cake. For example, you are making a cake. Okay. Now, when you are making a cake, it has more than one material: eggs, flour, butter, sugar. When you're making a cake, it has four material: flour, eggs, butter, sugar. You cannot say that input each material, eggs, flour, butter, sugar, in whatever quantity you wish. No. There is a standard recipe or standard mixing ratio that this much egg should be input, this much flour should be input, this much sugar should be input. Okay. Let's suppose you are constructing a house. It requires water, steel, cement. You cannot say input as much water as you want, as much steel as you want, as much cement as you want. No, there is a standard mixing ratio or standard recipe. Let's suppose we drink Coca-Cola. Okay. Coca-Cola has many ingredients you see at the back. So what do they say? Input sugar as much as you want, input carbonated water as much as you want. No, there is a standard mixing ratio or standard recipe. Input this material this much, this material this much. Now, whenever you input material different than standard recipe, a variance arises called material mix variance. Whenever you input material different than standard recipe, a variance arises called mix variance. Okay, we all drink Tang. Okay, Tang. We do not say that input as much water as you want, input as much Tang powder as you want. No, there is a standard recipe. This much water, this much Tang. Okay, whenever your input is different than what is recommended by standard recipe, a variance occurs called material mix variance. Okay, let me show you one thing. This is the notes file which I have shared with you. Just telling you one thing from this. See, the first thing, material usage variance is divided into two things: material mix variance, material yield variance. Now, what is material mix variance? I want you to pay attention to this definition. See, the definition. Arises due to non-appropriate mixing of materials. Arises due to non-appropriate mixing of materials. That is, the actual mix is different from the mix recommended by standard. This variance arises due to non-appropriate mixing of materials. What does non-appropriate mixing means? Actual mix is different from the mix recommended by standard. Okay. So whenever you input materials in a different mix as recommended by standard, a variance occurs called material mix variance. Okay, like here, that I told you, material mix variance occurs when your input material is different than standard. Whenever a product requires, like we eat biscuits, biscuit also has eggs, sugar, butter. You cannot say input as much butter as you want, as much cream as you want. No, there is a standard recipe, this much butter, this much sugar. If it's different than the standard, then a variance comes called material mix variance. Okay. Now, how do we calculate it? There is a format. Whatever materials you are using, you need to make the rows of those materials. Let's suppose you are using two materials, two rows, material A, material B. If there are three materials, three rows, material A, B, C. If there are four materials, four rows, material A, B, C, D. Okay, so whatever materials are there, you need to make the rows of those materials. Whatever materials are there, you need to make the rows of those materials. Okay. So let's suppose you have a product having two materials, you make two rows. What is the format? It's not lengthy. Only two columns need to be learned, rest are very easy. Only two columns need to be learned, rest are very easy. The first column is called actual quantity in standard mix. Write the actual quantity in standard mix. Standard mix means recipe. Actual quantity in standard mix means write the recipe. Standard mix is recipe. Okay. Compare it with actual quantity in actual mix. That's it. Actual quantity in actual mix means what you have input. So actual quantity in standard mix means recipe. That needs to be recorded. Compare it with the actual quantity in actual mix. What you have done. This comparison will give mix variance in kgs. This comparison will give mix variance in kgs. The net off should be 0. Mix variance in kgs, the net off should be 0. Okay. Multiply this with standard price per kg. You get mix variance in monetary values. Okay. That means the most important columns are the first two. Actual quantity in standard mix. Actual quantity in standard mix means recipe. What did the recipe state? Compare with actual quantity in actual mix. What you input. Compare to get mix variance kgs. Multiply by standard price per kg, you get mix variance in dollars. Okay. Second variance is called material yield variance. Now, what is material yield variance? Yield is basically output. So yield variance is the output variance. Yield means output, so yield variance is the output variance. Okay, so yield variance is the output variance. That is output what was budgeted and output actually achieved. Yield variance is the output variance, yield output. Output variance means output that was budgeted and output that was actually achieved. This variance is called material yield. Okay, mix variance. What input, what was recommended by recipe standard mix, and the input you did. That's mix variance. Yield is the output variance, how much output was expected and how much output was actually achieved. Okay, how do we calculate this material yield variance? Again, the format is simple. First two columns are important, rest are just one-way traffic. Whatever materials are there, make rows of that materials. If there are two materials, make two rows. Okay. The first column is called standard quantity allowed, whatever is allowed by management. Compare it with actual quantity in standard mix. I've told you standard mix is the recipe. Comparison would give you YV, yield variance in kgs. Multiply by standard price per kg, you get yield variance in monetary. Now a student asks me, what is my job? What is my responsibility with respect to these variances? You have two jobs. Firstly, you must know the definition of each variance. That what is the definition of mixed variance? What is the definition of yield variance? And secondly, you must learn this format because you will be able to solve questions through this format. Number one, you need to write the definition. Okay. And secondly, you must learn the format because the format is very important. This will help you to solve this. Okay, so I'm just quickly recapping the definition and the format, and then we will move towards examples. The first example I will solve, you will then copy, and then I will give you an example. You need to solve on your own. If you solve it correctly, we will be done for today. Okay, so let's suppose we are starting with material mix and yield variances. What was the first thing I told you? They are the branches of two variances. What are those two variances? Material mix and material yield variances are the branches of variances. MUV, material usage variance, is broken into two parts, mix, yield. Okay. What is mixed variance and yield variance? They arise when there are more than one material. Second thing, more than one materials. So whenever there are more than one materials, you don't say input as much as you like. There is a standard mixing ratio or recipe that needs to be followed. Even when you purchase an item of food, it has a recipe that input this tablespoon, this much tablespoon of this much tablespoon of that. That is the standard recipe. If you input different than that, mixed variance arises. Okay, and yield variance is the output variance. Okay, output variance is what was the budgeted output and the actual output. Okay, to calculate mixed variance, you need to make a format having two, whatever materials are there, you need to make the rows of those materials. Okay, the first column is called actual quantity in standard mix. Actual quantity in standard mix is the recipe. You need to write that. And actual quantity in actual mix, what you have input, that's it. Comparison mix variance kg, standard price per kg currency, and the yield variance is the output variance. Okay, whatever material are there, make two rows of materials, standard quantity allowed, actual quantity in standard mix, yield variance kgs, price per kg currency. Now, will you be able to solve it easily or not? I'm just telling you a trick. I'm just telling you a trick. Please pay attention to this trick. Obviously, when material mix and yield variance will be asked, you will make this format. Whenever material mix and yield variance will be asked, you will make this format. Okay. After this format, you have to place the values. After this format, you have to place the values. Now remember, this thing, actual quantity in actual mix, what you have input, this will always be given in actual results. I don't want to hear this question, sir, what if this is not given? If this is not given, you cannot solve the question. So this actual quantity and actual mix, what you have input, that's always given in actual result. This will always be given. Okay. This column, standard quantity allowed, whatever is allowed by the management. This is calculated as follows: actual units produced into standard quantity per unit. Actual units produced into standard quantity per unit. So if you are making 1,000 units and the quantity per unit is 3 kgs, if you are making 1,000 units and the quantity per unit is 3 kgs, so standard quantity allowed would be 3,000. If you are making 5,000 units and the quantity allowed is 1 kg per unit, so 5,000 units into 1 kg per unit, 5,000. So you see, actual quantity in actual mix, this will be given in actual results. And standard quantity allowed, I have told you how to get this through a formula. That means the only effort you have to put in is on this. Actual quantity standard mix here, actual quantity standard mix. Once you get this, that's it. Everything is done. Once you get this, everything is done. So again, what is your job being a student? Learn the definition that mix variance occurs means input material. What you have input is different from the mix standard recipe, and output variance, yield variance, output different from budget. Format whatever materials, make the rules. First one, mix variance column, actual quantity standard mix. What is the standard mixing recipe? Compare with actual quantity and actual mix, what you have done. Compare it, get mix variance kgs, price per kg currency, or yield variance, whatever materials are there, make rows. The first column is standard quantity allowed, then actual quantity standard mix, compare to get yield variance kgs, price per kg, and currency. Okay, now how to get them? The first thing, actual quantity in actual mix, what you have input, this will always be given in actual results. Okay, standard quantity allowed, that will be generated through a formula. Once you fill these two, only two things are left: actual quantity and standard mix. That would be it. Okay, so if you want to write any formula, you can write. We are shortly moving towards a question in which I will apply these skills so that you get a sound idea of how these things work in the question. And I need only one question. You will understand it perfectly, and then you can go on, and I will give you one more question to solve on your own. Okay, so if you want to copy these formulas, you can copy, and then I will move towards that. Okay. Okay, now On your screen, there are two questions, and these two questions are from the file which I have shared to you. If you want to take a printout of that, you can do it on your own. If you want to see through that file, not through the screen, it's your choice. But I would advise you to open that question on the WhatsApp. It's on page number 1 as well, because when I switch the screen for writing, at least you have the question in front of you. Okay, so please open that file. I will be doing just question number 1. Question number 2 would be on your own. And once I discuss the answer and I'm satisfied that you have done question number 2 correctly, we will end the class. Okay. Okay, so let's start with question number 1. Pay attention, because this is just one example which has to fit into your mind, and the question number 2 would be your own. Now the question is, a company makes a product XYZ for which following standard data is available. Okay, company makes a product XYZ for which following standard data is available. Okay, company makes a product XYZ for which following standard data is available. Remember, this is the standard data. Material A 5 kgs at 2 per kg 10. Material B 10 kgs at 3 per kg 30. Total cost is 40. During the period, 80 units of XYZ were produced from 500 kgs material A and 730 kgs material B. Requirement is mix and yield. Okay. That's it. Now, a company makes a product XYZ for which following standard data is available. Okay, look at the standard data. Material A, material B. Material A 5 kgs at 2 per kg as per standard data, it's 10. Material B 10 kgs at 3 per kg 30. During the period, 80 units of XYZ were produced from 500 kgs A, 730 kgs B. Requirement is mix and yield. Okay. Now, when the question asks mix and yield variance, the first thing you have to do is to make the format. Okay, I'm switching the screen, but you keep attention to the question in front of you on WhatsApp. Okay. When the question asks material mix and yield variance, immediately make the format. Okay. Whatever materials are there, make the row. So if you go to the question, how many materials are there? I can clearly see there are 2 materials, material A, material B. So I will make 2 rows. Material A, material B. I will make 2 rows. And I should learn the format of mixed variance, which I have to learn because that will be an important thing. The first column in material mix variance is actual quantity in standard mix kgs. Then the second column is actual quantity in actual mix kgs. This comparison produces mix variance in kgs. So net of which will be 0. You multiply it with standard price per kg. You get mix variance in monetary form. Okay. This is the format of mix variance. I need to learn it. Whatever materials are there, maybe in the next question I get 4 materials, I will make 4 rows. But here I'm getting 2 materials, so 2 rows, material A, B. The first column is actual quantity in standard mix, actual quantity, actual mix, mix variance kg, standard price per kg currency. And then I am also asked in this question to find material yield variance. So I will make the format of material yield variance as well. Okay. Again, whatever materials are there, make the rows. So there are 2 materials. I will make 2 rows, material A, material B. The first column is standard quantity allowed kgs. The second is actual quantity in standard mix kgs. We get yield variance in kgs. We multiply it with standard price per kg, and we get yield variance in monetary value. This is what you should learn and go in the exam, because after this, the only issue will be the number entry. You just have to enter the number from the question, that's it. Okay. So in this question, I was asked to find material mix and material yield variance. Okay. So question number 1, a company makes a product XYZ for which following standard data is available. Material A, material B, 2 materials in place of material. It's written 5 kgs, 2 per kg, 10. Material B, 10 kgs, 3 per kg, 30. Total is 40. During the period, 80 units of XYZ were produced from 500 kgs A, 730 kgs B. Mix and yield. For mix and yield variance, you make the format. Material mix variance, 2 materials, 2 rows, actual quantity standard mix, actual quantity actual mix, mix variance kgs, price per kg currency. Yield variance is material A, B, 2 materials, standard quantity allowed, actual quantity standard mix, yield variance kg, standard price per kg currency. I want you to pay attention to the question on WhatsApp, because I won't be able to change the screen now because I will be concentrating here, but you must have the question in front of you. Now, before starting this question, from the standard data, you must extract 2 things. From the standard data, you must extract 2 things from the standard data. From the standard data, you must extract 2 things before starting the question. The first thing, how many materials are there? The first thing, how many materials are there? So there are 2 types of materials, A and B. This you should extract from the scenario before starting the solution. From standard data, you need to extract 2 things. How many types of materials are there? 2, A and B. And number 2, the standard mixing ratio or standard recipe is how many kgs. The standard mixing ratio or standard recipe states 5 kgs A and 10 kgs B. So the standard mixing ratio is basically 5:10. This you should extract from the standard data. How many materials are there? 2, A and B. And what is the standard mixing ratio or standard recipe? It's 5 kgs A, 10 kgs B, so 5:10. You can go back to the standard data if you want me to open. From the standard data, I have to extract 2 things. How many materials are there? 2, A and B. And what is the standard mixing ratio? From the standard data, I have to extract this. This is the standard data. 5 kgs A is being taken, 10 kgs B, so the standard mixing ratio is 5:10. Okay. Once you are done with it, you can start the question. I'm almost ready to start the question. I've made the format, and before starting this question, I have told you that from the standard data, you need to extract 2 things. First, how many types of materials are there? 2. And what is the standard mixing ratio or standard recipe? 5 kgs A, 10 kgs B, so standard mixing ratio is 5:10. Okay. Now let's start inputting the data. It's very easy, trust me. Now, when you will start material mix variance, the format is there. Actual quantity in standard mix. Actual quantity in standard mix means, what is the recipe stating? Actual quantity in actual mix. What you have done, mix variance kgs, price per kg currency. Now let's start. This actual quantity in actual mix, I've told you, is given in actual results. this actual quantity and actual mix is always given in actual results. You should start from column number 2. This actual quantity and actual mix. Actual quantity and actual mix means what actually you have mixed. That's always given in actual results. So you just need to go to the question and go in actual results. This is the standard results. You don't have to see this. Go in actual results. During the period, 80 units of XYZ were produced from 500 kgs A and 730 kgs material B. During the period, 80 units of XYZ were produced from 500 kgs material and 730 kgs from material B. So how much you have input, that's always given. How much you have input, 500 kgs A, 730 kgs B. So the material you have input will always be given. You just need to place it that 500 kgs A you have input and 730 kgs B you have input. So total will be 1230. I have not done anything. No credit to me or you. It's just given actual quantity and actual mix. How much you have input. Read the statement again. You have the question in front of you. During the period, 80 units were produced from 500 kgs material A. How much A did you input? 500. And 730 kgs B. How much B did you input? 730. So total actual quantity and actual mix, how much you have input. It's always given in actual results. 1230. Okay. Any questions regarding this? Actual quantity and actual mix. How much you have input. That will always be given in actual results. So you just need to go to the actual results and see that you have made 80 units and input 500 kgs A, 730 kgs B. So 500 A, 730 B, actual quantity and actual mix. What you have done, it's always done. Now, move to actual quantity and standard mix. Pay attention, this is important. Move to actual quantity and actual standard mix. In this column, actual quantity is coming. In this column, actual quantity is coming, which was 1230. In this column, also actual quantity is coming. In the second column, actual quantity was coming 1230. In this column, actual quantity is coming. So you will write the same 1230. But this will come in standard mix. In this column also actual quantity is coming, so you will write the same 1230, but that's coming in standard mix. What was the standard mixing ratio for this quantity? 5 kg is to 10 kg, so sum is 15. So for A, it should be 5/15 into 1230, 410. And for B, it should be 10 ratio out of 15 in total into 1230, 820. Both columns are dealing in actual quantity. 1230 and 1230. Both columns are dealing in actual quantity. But in the second column, actual quantity is coming as per actual mix. What you have done, 500A, 730B, always given in actual results. Copy the same quantity, 1230, but apply the standard mix. 5:10, what you extracted. So sum is 15, 5/15 into 1230, 410, and 10/15 into 1230. Any questions with these two? Because if these two are clear, it would be hardly 10 seconds to complete all the remaining. Any questions with respect to these two? Please ask in the chats if you have any questions. So that's very good that if there is no question, because you have catched it. Understand the strategy. Mixed yield variance required, make the format. From the standard data, you have to extract two things. How many materials? 2, AB, and the standard mixing ratio kgs, 510. Enter the second column first. Actual quantity and actual mix, what you have input, always given in actual results. 500A, 730B, 1230. Copy the same 1230. And the standard mixing ratio, 5:10, apply it. Let's just wrap it up now. Now, actual quantity in standard mix for A is 410. Standard mix is the recipe. Remember, standard mix is the recipe. So actual quantity standard mix as per recipe is 410. And actual quantity actual mix, what we have input is 500. You have input more. So variance is 90 adverse because the recipe stated 410. You input 500. So you input more, 90 adverse. Okay. And B, actual quantity in standard mix recipe. Standard mix is the recipe stated 820. You input less 730. So this is going to be 90 favorable, and the net off will be 90 favorable, 90 towards 0. It will be always 0. Multiply with standard price per kg. So for standard price per kg, go back to the question in the standard data. The standard price per kg in standard data is 2 per kg and 3 per kg for A and B. So standard price per kg is 2, 3. 90 adverse kgs into 2, it's 180 adverse, and 90 favorable into 3, it's 270 favorable. Net of them 270 favorable, 180 adverse, it's 90 favorable. You're done with material mix variance. You are done with material mix variance. Okay, so always remember only first 2 columns are important. Actual quantity, actual mix is given. What you have input 500A, 730B, always given 1, 2, 3, 0. Copy the same. Apply the standard mixing ratio 5:10. It's 15, 5 over 15, 10 over 15. That's it. So recipe stated standard mix stated A410. You input more 90 adverse. Recipe stated 820B. You input less 90 favorable. Net of 0. Multiply by standard price per kg. Smart. Any questions on mixed variance? Okay, no questions mean we will move towards the next. Don't copy at the moment. We will move towards the next. Yield is more easier than mix. And once you complete yield, I will give you time to copy. And then you will do question number 2 on your own. Okay. Now yield variance is more easier. How? Look at the second column of yield. Actual quantity in standard mix. Already done. Actual quantity in standard mix already done. Copy it. A 410. B 20. It's already done, right? Actual quantity in standard mix 410, 820. Just copy it. Actual quantity standard mix, copy from our standard quantity allowed. I have told you a formula for standard quantity allowed. Remember? Actual units produced into standard quantity per unit. So for standard quantity allowed, you can calculate it. Actual units produced. Go to the question. How many units are produced? See, 80 units were produced. So actual units produced are 80. Multiplied by standard quantity per unit. So standard quantity per unit will come from standard. Go in standard. What is the standard quantity per unit? 5 kg and 10 kg. 2 and 3 are the dollars, standard price per kg. Standard quantity is 5 kgs. Go in standard, you need standard quantity per unit. See, standard quantity per unit, not the price. So it's 5 kgs, 10 kgs, standard quantity per unit from standard. Multiply by actual units produced. So it's 5 kgs into 80 units. 400 and 800. This makes it 1200. Okay, so formula is actual units produced. It's 80. Standard quantity per unit. In standard, the quantity per unit is not the dollar one, the kgs one, 510. Okay, so it's 400, 800. That's it. The quantity allowed of A is 400. The quantity allowed of A is 400. And the actual quantity you're seeing is 410 more. So 10 adverse kgs, Standard quantity allowed for B is 800. In actual quantity, you're seeing more, 820. So 20 more, 20 adverse, net of is 30 adverse. This would not come 0. Only mix would come 0. This would not come 0. Standard price per kg from standard is 2 or 3. See, price per kg from standard is 2 and 3. 10 adverse into 2, 20 adverse. 20 adverse into 3. Multiply by standard price per kg. 60 adverse. Net them off, 80 adverse. This is material mix and material yield variance. That look at the strategy. Follow the format. Make the format. Fill the second column first, actual quantity and actual mix, given in actual results. Copy the same here, apply the standard mixing ratio, kgs, okay, 5:10, and you got it. For yield variance, the actual quantity standard mix comes from above the second column, standard quantity allowed needs to be calculated, and the kgs into price per kg into currents, okay? So I want you to copy the solution, and if you have any questions, you can please ask. Yeah, Ahmed Ibrahim, I will just tell you all these details. Don't move towards question number 2. I will just write one statement and then you can move towards question number 2. Just write one statement to explain you, then you can move towards question number 2. You see, the strategy is very, very easy for you, that from the standard data, extract two things. How many types of materials are there? Two, A, B, and the mixing ratio. Both of these would be given in standard data. You just have to copy paste. Two types of material and mixing ratio is 5 kgs, 10 kgs. For the mixed variance format, second column is given in actual results, how much input, copy the same, and the standard mix, 5:10. Okay, you get the mixed variance. And the yield, second column, you can copy standard quantity allows the actual units into standard quantity. Okay, so I want to just copy the solution, and before moving towards question number 2, I will just write one statement regarding this, and then you can move towards question number 2. So you might be wondering that what does this variance means? So you know that we will be asked to do commentary as well. Therefore, we must know the meaning of these. So in every question, I will tell you meaning as well. Now, yield variance is 80 adverse. Adverse is a bad sign, right? Adverse is a bad sign. So yield variance 80 adverse means output was less than expectations. Okay, had it been 80 favorable, you would have said that output was more good than expectations. That's why favorable. But since yield variance or output variance is adverse, the output was less than expectations. Okay, this is very easy, that output was less than expectation, but there is some technicality in understanding the meaning of mixed variance. Now, mixed variance of 90 favorable means cheaper material was input more and expensive material was input less. This is just understanding one time. For future, you can learn this. Okay, if mixed variance is favorable, mixed variance means you have input different from recipe. So mixed variance favorable means the cheaper material, C, A and B, two material, which is the cheaper one, A. That's input more than recipe. In place of 410, I input 400 more, cheaper more, and expensive. What is the expensive one? B. That's input less, C. In place of 820, you input 730. So when cheaper is entered more and expensive is entered less, cheaper more, expensive less, expensive less, cheaper more, expensive less. So less expensive means favorable, more cheaper means favorable. However, it could be adverse. Maybe in the next question, I will prove that it will be vice versa. But don't write the statement at the moment for the other issue as well. It's just one learning point that when yield variance is favorable, output more. Yield variance adverse, output less. Here, yield variance is 80 adverse, output is less. But mixed variance favorable means the cheaper material out of A and B, the cheaper is 2. That's input more, 500 and plus of 410, and expensive B, that's input less. Any questions with respect to anything, either the meaning, either the calculation, you can ask, no problem. And if you're all clear, I want you to go to question number 2. You have the handout file with you. I will be giving you 10 minutes for question number 2. After 10 minutes, I will solve the answer of question number 2, write those meanings, and then we'll end the class. Okay, so if you have any queries with respect to anything, calculation or meaning, please ask me. I am proving the meaning of mixed variant, that it's favorable. You can learn cheaper material. Yeah, from 2, 3, cheaper is 2. That's input more, and expensive is less. See, expensive V is less. 730 in place of 820. Recipe stated 820, you input less. So when expensive is less, favorable. Okay. Any questions, please ask. Else, go to question number 2. You have the handout, okay? After 10 minutes, I will be with the answer, okay? Okay, so I've received one message that I'm done. So I want to receive done message from few more so that we can start it. One guy is really smart. He immediately did it on spreadsheet and shared with me. So that's awesome, because from the next question, I will be doing it on Excel, but obviously in the first class, it's better to teach it as detailed manner as possible. Okay. Okay, so if you read the question number 2, a company makes a product ABC for which following standard data is available. Again, that's standard data, right? Not the actual data, it's the standard data. Material X 2 kgs, 4 per kg 8, material Y 5 kgs, 3 per kg 15, material Z 3 kgs, 2 per kg 6, 29. This is the standard data. During the period, 200 units of ABC were produced from 500 kgs material X, 1250 kgs material Y, 550 kgs material Z, mixed seal grades. Okay, for mixed seal, we will immediately make the format. Okay, material mix variance. First thing, whatever materials are there, make the rows. So if you see the question, there are 3 materials, material X, Y, Z. So here you will make 3 rows. Material X, material Y, material Z. First column, actual quantity in standard mix, what the recipe states, actual quantity in actual mix, what you have input, comparison, mix variance kg, standard price per kg, currency. Format is ready. Yield variance again, whatever materials are there, make the rows. 3 materials, 3 rows, material X, material Y, material Z. Obviously, by looking at the question, you will know how many materials are there. Okay. Now, before starting the question, I've told you that from standard data, you have to abstract 2 things. How many materials are there? 3. If you look at the standard data, 3 materials. And what is the standard mixing ratio, standard recipe? From standard data, you have to extract this from standard data. So look at the standard data. How many materials are there? 3. Standard mixing ratio recipe is 2 kgs, 5 kgs, 3 kgs. Okay. 2 kgs, 5 kgs, 3 kgs. This you must extract from standard data in order to understand it properly. That how many materials are there? 3. And the standard recipe or mixing ratio, 2 kgs, 5 kgs, 3 kgs. Let's start actual quantity, actual mix. The second column would always be given in actual results. So go in actual results and see. In actual results, not standard results, actual results. 200 units produced, 500 kgs X, 250, 1250 kgs Y, 550 kgs Z. Copy same 2300 here, because here it's also actual quantity, here it's also actual quantity. Copy the same, but in standard mix. So standard mix is 2, 5, 3, sum is 10. So for X, it's 2 over 10 into 2300. For Y, it's 5 over 10 into 2300. So 3 over 10 into 2300. This makes it 460, 1150, and 690. So standard mix recipe states X 460, you input more 40 adverse. Recipe states 1150Y, you input more 1250, 100 adverse. Z recipe states 690, you input less 140 favorable. C net off 40 adverse, 100 adverse, 140 favorable, net off 0. Standard price per kg, go in standard 432. Price is this $sign 432. Multiplied. 40 kgs adverse, 4 per kg, 160 adverse, 100 adverse, 3 per kg, 300 adverse, and 140 favorable, 2 per kg, 280 favorable. Net of is 180 adverse. Okay. For yield variance, copy the second column, actual quantity standard mix from above: 460, 1150, 690, 2300. Standard quantity allowed. The formula is actual units produced. You can go and see the actual units produced are 200. Multiply by a standard quantity per unit. So the standard quantity per unit is standard quantity. Go in standard. This is the quantity, not the price quantity, 253. So 400, 1,000, 600. This makes it 2,000. So quantity allowed for X is 400, you input more. 60 adverse, allowed for Y is 1,000, you input more. 150 adverse, and for Z it's 600, actually it's 90 more adverse. Net of 300 adverse, it doesn't have to be 0. Standard price per kg 432, monetary value 240 adverse. And 450 adverse, 180 adverse. $870 adverse. Remember the meaning now. Yield variance is 870 adverse. Output variance is 870 adverse bad. So output was less than expectation. Yield variance is 870 adverse. Output was less than expectation. Mix variance. The mixing variance is 180 adverse. What does this mean? This means expensive material was input more and cheaper material was input less. Expensive more, cheaper less. So expensive more, adverse, bad, expensive more. See the proof. Out of all these three, the expensive are these two. And this is cheaper. See, the expensive material, both of these are input more than recipe. In place of 460, 500, in place of 1150, 1250. Expensive are input more, and cheaper ones that is input less. So when expensive more, cheaper less, expensive more is bad, adverse. And in the previous one, when expensive was less and cheaper was more, it was favorable. Okay, so we are now completely in control of these two examples. If you have any questions, you can ask. And if you have no questions, then we can end this class. Okay. And we'll meet in the next class.